Welcome to the Adventures in Learning podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Diane, and we are continuing to explore the amazing world of wild tomorrow. And particularly today, you get to meet somebody who was one of my absolute favorite humans I met while we were on our trip. Aphiwe Notshaya does an amazing job setting up community partnerships and working with the preschools and the community centers and really bringing the message of conservation to the community. Wonder, curiosity, connection. Where will your adventures take you? I'm Dr. Diane, and thank you for joining me on today's episode of Adventures in Learning. I am so excited to welcome you to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so great to be here. I'm looking forward to this. Absolutely exciting.
I am so happy you are here. So let's start by talking about you. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you found Wild Tomorrow, because you've been interested in conservation since you were a little bitty girl.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I've always known that I was going to be in conservation since I was young. My father was in conservation before that. And so I think it was one of those things that just ran in our blood. And when I went into high school, I didn't know at the time that there was something called environmental management, environmental science. I never knew that conservation existed. I mean, we were told about the roles that you find today, like an accountant, a teacher, a police officer. I mean, those are the things that we knew. And so for most of my life, in high school, that's grade 8 all the way until grade 10, I knew that I wanted to be a chartered accountant because, that's what we were told. We were never, nature conservation was not a thing. The environment was not a thing. And then I remember taking those subjects. And when I was in grade 11, we had a change of teachers. And this teacher was just teaching about conservation, like throughout. So she was teaching us geography. And then she just mentioned about the environment and careers in it. And I was like, I want to do that. I do not want to be stuck in the office all day. That's what I've always wanted to do. But, we never knew how. And so with all the wrong subjects that I did in high school, I somehow managed to get into university and do environmental management. And, it has opened so many doors for me because I then went from there to volunteering in an aquarium, teaching basic marine ecology. And then I went to volunteer somewhere else where we were partnering with communities and looking at projects of how to stop plastic from entering the ocean, but not stopping it like at the river mouth, but stopping it from where the communities are. So that was a very interesting project. And then working at the beach, exploring coastal environments. And then I moved from there and I worked in government under climate change. And that's when when I was there, I was like, okay, I feel like I want to explore a lot. I feel like I've been exposed a lot to the marine environment and I don't know anything about the terrestrial environment. And I kind of want to know more about that. And that's when I saw like a job post from Wild Tomorrow. And I was like, okay, let me take my chances. Let me apply. Let me see what happens. And, I got called to the interview and I met some of the most amazing people at the interview, actually. And I just fell in love with Wild Tomorrow. And now I'm here from working in government where we are people-centered and working in an NGO space where we were focusing on conservation. At Wild Tomorrow, now I get to merge the two roles and say, yes, we are conserving, but we need to think of the people. So, yeah.
I love that. And so tell us, because for me, one of the most interesting things about my Wild Tomorrow experience was the work that you do in bringing conservation to the people. So talk a little bit about what your job is and the kinds of partnerships you're working to build, because I think that that's so important. We can't save animals and can't save habitats without considering the impact on the community.
So Baltimore has given me a very unique platform because in most places, they always focus on one or the other. It's never both, so you find that conservation has always, just blocked people out. It's always been, no, stop using the water. Stop, stop doing this. Stop cutting the tree. Stop. But there has never been an explanation to say, this is why we say this, and so that's why I'm here. So basically going into the community, you need to realize that she's working with different communities, people of different backgrounds, and mostly people that are so unemployed and are some of them living in poverty. And the first thing or the priority for them is not conservation. It's more, where do I get my next meal? How do I get to school? What am I going to do? My child needs school uniform. And so that's where we step in. We say we want to show the community that we're not only focusing on conservation, we're not only cutting them out, but we're saying, let us help you whilst we still continue our conservation efforts. So some of the projects that I do is my favorite one is the preschools. So this is our ECD program, early childhood development. So this is from 0 to 5 years old. And basically we just coming into the schools, equipping the teachers, training the teachers. I just came from fetching some of the teachers at a training they had all week, and they came back with big boxes filled with toys and new resources. So, helping them to see that they can actually go out there into the world, get training and come back, assisting them. Some of them don't have transportation to go to these trainings. And basically the kids that go to these schools, some of them are orphans. Some of them live with unemployed parents. And so they can't afford school fees, which means that when they get to school, they can't afford to carry a lunchbox. And so we come in at the ECD centers and we provide food every month to make sure that those kids get at least 2 meals a day of food. So it's basically, and when you go out and you understand who you are working with, that's when people will, you as an organization will kind of understand, okay, working with people that are unemployed. So we need to prioritize job security. We are working with people that dropped out of school. We need to understand what is happening. Why are they dropping out of school? They don't have uniform. They don't have stationery. And we then can see as an organization, how do we help? So that's why we're helping ECD centers. That's why we're going in there with the food. So to actually put in the culture of learning, we want kids to love school. We want to have a population or a community that is educated, that will take big decisions on conservation in the future. And, if we leave them be as they are, chances are that, somebody who wants to build or who wants to like drill or mine in this wetland, they'll be like, yes, because all they see is job opportunities, whereas when we come in and we educate and we partner with them, they see the value of conservation. They see that the organizations that are helping us are conservation based. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why we do what we do. And we also help out a community center that has orphaned and vulnerable children. And so these kids would range from 2 years old up until 18 years old. And so they would need uniforms, they would need stationery, they would need food parcels every month, and they would need so every time in June, they would have like extra classes. So we assist with these things. We assist with camps. We assist with clothing for kids. We assist with uniforms, and we assist with stationery. And right now we're currently we have ordered, I think, backpacks, yes, for the kids. And because that's one of carrying a backpack most of the time is like a luxury. You don't get to carry stationery in general is a luxury. I mean, all the parents can afford is maybe to buy you a shirt and a pants and send you off, so you don't have a pen or different color pens or a highlighter or an eraser. So, I mean, that's where we step in. We still want these kids to fall in love with school. We still want them to be like, I love school. I have my backpack. I have this. I have my notes organized. We still want that so much for them. And so what we do with these kids is we also bring them to the reserve and to teach them because, I mean, that's the nice thing. When you help the community, you gain so much access to the people. You gain access to the kids. You gain access to the parents. I mean, who knew that supporting an ECD center would open you up to like meeting the parents, getting the parents involved, so these are, just some of the things that we do. And I mean, I think one of my favorite programs in the whole wide world is one where we support this young gentleman who helps these students after school, after matric. Then he helps them to apply to universities. He helps graduates apply for learnerships, internships, and he does this all for free. And we've come in as well tomorrow to say, we're going to make sure that you got data. We're going to make sure that you have ink because, I mean, Duku is a rural area and there's so much disconnect. People don't have smartphones, so how are they going to apply? And we need to partner. We need our neighbors to have jobs and to participate in the economy. And so, so he's my favorite because he also goes into schools and he does career guidance with the kids. I mean, I never knew that there were environmental careers until I was in grade 10. So imagine, the difference that we make and to say there are careers in conservation. And I'm hoping so much that we get to do a woman in conservation careers this year. Yeah, that's really hoping we can do that. I feel like Wild Tomorrow has the space to actually really change the space that we have here. I'm very excited.
I love that. And the fact that you've got the conference center and you've got the ability to provide a safe space to do this kind of work, but also to be able, and you said something earlier that I went, oh yeah, to be able to have the kids come out and to be able to see a zebra or a giraffe or a hippo, because we have that here in America as well, where kids don't get to see those things that tourists from away get to see, and they're in their own backyard.
Sure.
And that's another powerful entree into conservation is when you see it and know it, then you fall in love with it.
Definitely. I mean, I think one of the things that I found when I was here, that this is also from my personal experience. The only time I ever went to a game reserve was with the school that I was in, and that was one time. So before Wild Tomorrow, I'd only gone on a game viewer once in my life, and I joined Wild Tomorrow at the age of 28. So when you look at your budget in a general African household, budgeting to go to a big 5 game reserve, doesn't make it.
No.
we we focus on food and we focus on other things, housing and shelter. And, so it's not a surprise for me that these kids don't go there, but it's also so sad because they're missing so much. And that's why we have these environmental education programs. We bring the kids out to the reserve. We do bushwalks. So we developed this last year.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So it basically just, So I think.
So it's a guide. Is it a guide to the various animals and plants in the reserve? Is that what I'm seeing?
So it's a journal. It's an outdoor journal. We spent like a whole of last year just busy on this, and we made sure that it is also in a language that the kids can understand, that the family can understand as well. So basically, it just encourages kids to go out there and look around. It encourages you to draw and observe, and what are you hearing? What are you seeing? So when we take the kids, we don't only just take them on a game drive because, a game drive will be like, oh, see the big things. Oh, the lion, the elephant, and you're like, we forget that the bees are important. The
Right.
dung beetle is important.
The dung beetle's my favorite.
Exactly. So, when the kids go on a bushwalk, then they look at the little insects and then they look at the birds and where do all these things live? What is their habitat? So that they understand that there's so many things that lives out there that make up our ecosystem. So, yeah.
I love that. So you're building that connection. And again, you're opening doors to new worlds that are right outside the door.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Oh, I love that. So when you're deciding sort of what partnerships to pursue and
Mm.
how to help the community, how do you go about doing that?
I think it's one of the things that I've found is that literally, we can try and avoid this all we want, but I feel like there's always going to be a little bit of politics everywhere, and when we go into the community, we also need to be very strategic about who we partner with and why we're partnering with them. I feel like our vision and our mission as well tomorrow is very important and is very dear and close to our hearts. And that when we need to make sure that when we're passing it over to somebody else, it's somebody that is really going to take it and run with it and not ruin it. And so most of the time, when you go into these local or rural communities, you have to consult with the traditional leaders so that they know that you are in the area and so that they give you permission to be in the area. So that is just a cultural aspect that we have to do. We're like, okay, we go to the chief, we are here, we are well tomorrow. This is what we've come to do. We want to educate. And then, sometimes they would say, okay, could you help us with the senior citizens event? And, they give you a platform to be like, we would love for you to speak on Well Tomorrow and what you guys do. And so choosing certain partnerships, it's like, okay, so these partnerships will give us access. We're not saying that like we like choose partnerships that benefits us, but we're saying that we need to make sure that we don't ruin our name, we don't lose the vision, we don't lose the mission. Because, a lot of people out there are also desperate. And, some people will be like, oh, this is a project I want to do. And you fund it and then nothing happens. And so we need to make sure that whatever we're choosing, whoever we're choosing is got a heart of conservation or they are willing to learn about conservation even. So we've got like a group of women who are doing climate smart agriculture, you know, projects like those, that align with our mission, that align with our vision. Those are the projects that we go for and projects that will help us in the long run. We believe very much in investing in the youth, investing in the kids, because they are the future of the world. And so we would choose like projects that target kids, children, school, education. That is our biggest thing. That is our biggest strength, I would say, as well, tomorrow, education. We've got Biologists Without Borders. We've got, Greg, who has a PhD. We've got so many intellectuals at Wild Tomorrow when you guys came out and you brought a different type of skill. And so we are huge on education and information and knowledge and skill. And so we want to take that knowledge and skill and give it to the kids. We focus a lot on education. We focus a lot on culture. We've got Zulu maidens, these Zulu maidens will go in September for Umkhosi Womuhlanga, which is a beautiful event where they take reeds from the river and go to present them to the palace, to the king's palace. And so you look at these things and you say, culture and conservation come together. So we target that because we don't want to come in and say, oh, we're just teaching conservation. We want to say your culture is important and it is impacted by conservation. I mean, if you continue to pollute this river, chances are you won't get the reeds anymore. things like that. We show them, we make sure that they connect nature to themselves now on a personal capacity. So, and we look at, okay, so that's cultural. And then we look at our youth. We don't want to give up on our youth. They are our strongest workforce in South Africa, and we don't want to give up on them. And we want to say, we want to make sure that you've got opportunities, to go out there. So hence why we're supporting Sandile, and he's helping them to apply to universities, to apply to, internships and learnerships. And so he's connecting them to the world through the help of Wild Tomorrow. So I think we would just look at different spheres of where we want to go and how we want to go. And so our next one would be obviously focusing on the men, because mostly they're the ones that always getting into reserves. So we want to focus on the men, but not all the men per se. We want to focus on the young guys, our young boys. And we want to have a program for them to say, come through, see what is happening, know how the reserve works, know everything about it, so that, as you are growing, that, what, that place is my future. That place is our future. So we don't want to put up gates and fences and shut the people out, because they've been in this area for a long time. Chances are they've been using these resources way longer than we have, and so we don't want to be that organization that comes in and just pulls up fences and puts up gates and is like, you're not allowed to be in here. We want to be like, you are. Come through, we'll take you on a game drive. Come through, we'll take you on a bushwalk. Come through, that's what we want to do. We don't want people to feel like they can't access nature. We want to show them, this is yours too. It's not only us, it's a partnership that we create with the people.
I love that. When you create that kind of partnership, you create a dual investment for the future where everybody benefits.
Yes.
Imagine a space where curiosity drives innovation, where empathy fuels collaboration, and where learning feels less like a task and more like an adventure. My message isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about changing how you see the plate entirely. I'm Dr. Diane Jackson-Schnorr, and through the power of purposeful play, I equip leaders, educators, and organizations with the tools you need to unlock creative problem solving, deepen human connection, and build resistant ecosystems of empathy and innovation. Attendees will walk away not just inspired, but empowered, with immediately usable strategies to spark curiosity in teams, to lead with empathy, and to infuse learning into their everyday cultures. You'll learn how play isn't child's work. It's the secret weapon of the world's most effective leaders and change makers. This is not a feel-good talk that fades by Monday morning. It's a movement, a shift in how we engage people, solve problems, and lead meaningful change. My talks and workshops are shaped by decades of experience in education and a transformative message that connects across sectors. Whether your audience is corporate, educational, or nonprofit, they'll leave ready to rethink what's possible, both personally and professionally. Because when we learn and lead through play, we don't just change organizations, we change the world. Check it out at drdianeadventures.com.
Yes,
that's amazing. So if you had a wish list based on the work that you're doing that people could support you with, what kinds of things are on that list?
Oh my word, so many. I think what we're trying to do right now is to look at the priorities. I mean, off the top of my head, I know for a fact that the ECD centers, they need fire extinguishers. When you go in, it's so easy to get lost in the whole, okay, we're giving them food. But, when you look around and you're like, I didn't see a first aid kit. I don't see a fire extinguisher. Like, how? Okay, so you now have to come in and be like, okay, safety is an issue. We need to look at safety. So it's all of those things. I mean, there's so much. And I feel like what I would love to do is to just, after we've completed our needs list, is to send it through to you and, send it through to everyone that has visited Baltimore so that you can see for each different program which one you'd like to support and which one needs what.
See,
Because
I
there's
think
so
that's
many.
so important. And it's easy stuff to be able to provide as well.
Yes,
And
like clothing, stationery. I mean, it's relatively easy.
but it's so crucial. So you're
Yes.
doing a job you love, and it's so clear you love what you do. It just comes through. What do you sort of dream about for the future in terms of your career in conservation, what Wild Tomorrow might be able to do? Sort of, what do you imagine it looking like?
Oh, wow. I, oof, it's such I feel like I want Wild Tomorrow to be one of the first organizations that is really people focused. I don't want us to leave behind on conservation, but I feel like most organizations focus so much on conservation, they forget that people are part of it. And I want us to take that approach to say, when you talk to a person, there's not literally, in all the time I've been here, all it takes is you talking to a person. And the response that we've gotten from the community just by speaking. I mean, I've had calls all over from the community. Someone who called me at 7 o'clock at night. And, just taking the time to say, hi, this is what Wild Tomorrow does. Unfortunately, we don't take bookings. Unfortunately, we can't allow access to the swimming pool. We're no longer a restaurant. Giving them that time, they are so grateful because they feel like they are being listened to. I sat down with the local leaders and they said, you guys are the first organization to call us to a meeting to strategically plan about our community. So I just hope that World Tomorrow continues to be an organization that listens to the people, listens to the communities, and continues to communicate about conservation with the people. Yeah, that's what I wish for World Tomorrow. As for my career, I want to focus a lot on climate resilience. I've seen a huge gap, and I'm so excited that this year we're actually going to start teaching. So in the rural areas, the chiefs are the ones that will select a place. If you want, like if I would go and say, I need a plot of land, I want to build a house, then they would be like, okay, we can give you this land. And so often you find that maybe they put them way too close to a wetland. So, this year, we're going to be actually teaching them about what happens if you put somebody close to a wetland, what are the climatic impacts? There's flooding that we've seen. So the fact that the community has been like, we want to listen to this and we want to know about this and we want to be educated. I'm thrilled. So I really want to focus on climate resilience in future and obviously would love to officially have like a seed bank for the people of Nduku and maybe one day build disaster. I don't know but a disaster management center where if somebody's house is flooded, they can then temporarily sit there or stay there. I feel like we need so much more of those, especially with everything that's happening. So I think that's what I want to do. I need to start protecting the people as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I do have kind of a random question for you.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite animal or a favorite part of the reserve?
It's funny about my favorite animals. I love snakes. I really do.
Kevin must adore you then.
I love snakes. And so it's very rare for someone like me to love snakes, because in our culture, we've been taught to stay away from snakes. So I love snakes. And I think one of my favorite snakes is the Rinkhals. So the Rinkhals is a snake that just plays dead. And so when it's playing dead, it lies up and then it takes its tongue out like I just love the drama of the snake, and I'm just like, that is a lovely snake. So I love the wrinkles. That's
Oh,
my
I
favorite.
love that. What a wonderfully unexpected answer, too. That's very cool.
It is.
So my very last question for today, and it's one I ask everybody, is what currently brings you hope?
Ooh.
We need that question because it's a tough world these days.
For me, it's the fact that people are willing to listen and are willing to change. That sometimes you look at the stats and you look at conservation, you're like, oh my gosh, are we even making a difference? And then you get a call from one of the organizations that you support, and they're like, oh, I've just got funding for like 13,000 Rand. And you're like, we are making a difference because we want to teach them to be sustainable. And so you're kind of like, they are listening. They are trying to improve their lives. And so for me, it's that people are still willing to listen and people are still willing to change. So for me, that brings me a lot of hope.
Well, and you bring me a lot of hope because the work you do is so important. I've seen the faces of the kids at the early childhood centers and at the community centers, and I've also seen the joy you bring to the educators. And that's a huge thing, to make that life easier, to give them the tools they need. That's so important. So Aphiwe, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been wonderful seeing you.
I have loved getting to do this.
I love it too. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Adventures in Learning podcast with your host, Dr. Diane. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe, download, and let us know what you think. And please tell a friend. If you want the full show notes and the pictures, please go to drdianeadventures.com. We look forward to you joining us on our next adventure.